Liam never imagined his marriage to Lydia would turn into a slow-burning illusion. 5 years ago, he thought he was her hero, the man who rescued her from a past filled with bruises and betrayal. She had fled from Jacob, a violent man who had once shattered her world, and Liam was the one who helped her rebuild. He gave her stability, protection, and a home where she and her daughter, Jasmine, could feel safe. But lately, something had shifted. The warmth in their marriage had faded, replaced by cold silence and the ever-present glow of Lydia's phone screen. Jasmine, now 18, had never fully accepted Liam. She tolerated him, barely acknowledging his presence, always making it clear that he was not, and would never be, her father. It didn't bother him at first. He understood she had been through a lot. But as the months passed, her indifference turned into quiet hostility, and her mother's absence in their marriage only made it worse. Liam was no fool. He sensed the distance, the lies hidden in plain sight. Something was wrong, but he couldn't quite place it yet. But one thing was certain: the woman he married was slipping away. And soon, he would uncover the truth. Liam had spent months convincing himself that he was overthinking things. Maybe Lydia was just stressed. Maybe the exhaustion she always claimed wasn't an excuse but a real burden weighing on her. Maybe Jasmine's cold attitude was just teenage rebellion. But deep down, he knew better. It wasn't just the distance, it was the secrecy. The way Lydia's phone never left her hand. The way she would silence notifications the second he walked into the room. The way she avoided eye contact when he asked simple questions. And then there were the nights she worked late, when he knew for a fact that her job never required overtime. Doubt turned into suspicion, and suspicion demanded answers. So Liam did what he never thought he'd have to do. He hired a private investigator. It cost him $2, but the truth was worth every cent. And the truth hit him like a freight train. Lydia wasn't just cheating. She wasn't with some random stranger or a coworker. She had gone back to Jacob, the same man who had once broken her. The same monster she had sworn she would never return to. The images, the locations, the late-night rendezvous, it was all there. In black and white. Liam felt something inside him crack. But not from heartbreak. No, this wasn't sadness. This was something else entirely. Betrayal, yes, but beneath that, a simmering coldness. If this was the game Lydia wanted to play, then he would make sure he was the one who finished it. Liam had always believed that betrayal came with guilt, that when the moment of truth arrived, it would be met with hesitation, regret, maybe even an apology. But as he sat at the kitchen table that morning, watching Lydia fold the newspaper neatly before setting it aside, he realized how wrong he was. "Liam, I have something to tell you," she said, her voice calm, almost too steady. He sipped his coffee, masking the storm beneath his skin. "Go ahead," he said, keeping his tone neutral. She took a slow breath. "I'll be staying with Jacob for a month." The words fell between them like a stone in still water. Liam didn't react. He simply tilted his head slightly, studying her. "And what exactly will you be doing there?" Lydia straightened, her eyes locking onto his. "I told you, Liam, it's not cheating if I'm being honest about it." For a split second, a stunned silence filled the room. Then, Jasmine, who had been sitting quietly, scrolling through her phone, spoke up, smirking. "She has her needs, Liam. You don't own her." Liam slowly set his coffee cup down, exhaling through his nose. He had anticipated lies, excuses, maybe even a tear or two. But this brazen audacity? He felt something inside him shift. The woman sitting across from him had just made the biggest mistake of her life. And she didn't even know it yet. Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. He had expected betrayal, but he hadn't expected Lydia to lay it out so boldly, as if he were nothing more than an afterthought in her carefully planned affair. If she thought she could walk away without consequence, she was in for a rude awakening. "I see," he said finally, his voice eerily calm. "So, you'll be with Jacob for a month, fulfilling your desires, and I'm supposed to just wait here, being a faithful husband?" Lydia rolled her eyes. "Liam, I don't see why you're making this a big deal. It's just 30 days. He nodded. feigning consideration. Then, with a small smirk, he said, "All right, but let's make it official." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "A separation agreement," he said smoothly. "For 30 days, you'll have no financial or legal support from me, and I'll be free to do as I please. Just like you." For the first time, uncertainty flickered in her eyes. But before she could protest, Jasmine chimed in, smirking. "Sounds fair, Mom. Liam's actually supporting you." Lydia scoffed but grabbed the pen and signed, barely glancing at the terms. The moment the ink dried, Liam's heart hardened. She thought this was just a temporary arrangement. She thought he'd be here when she returned. But Lydia had just unknowingly signed away everything, and by the time she realized it, Liam would be long gone. The moment Lydia and Jasmine walked out the door, Liam wasted no time. While they believed they had secured their temporary escape, he was already setting the pieces in motion for their downfall. First, he transferred every last dollar from their joint account into his personal offshore savings, leaving behind a balance so low it couldn't buy a cup of coffee. Next, he called the dealership and arranged to sell both of their cars, the one he had gifted Lydia for their anniversary and the one he had bought for Jasmine's 18th birthday. By the end of the afternoon, they were both gone, along with the funds safely tucked away where neither woman could touch them. Then came the house. He had heard them complain over the years that it was too big and too much to maintain. So, he decided to fix that problem for them by putting it on the market immediately. He'd already spoken to a real estate agent, and within days, the process would be underway. By nightfall, Liam sat back with a drink in hand, his mind at ease for the first time in years. The silence was no longer suffocating, it was liberating. And then, the calls started. Lydia, then Jasmine, one after another, ringing endlessly. He let them go to voicemail. Savoring every second, he could already imagine their panic, the realization hitting them like a freight train. By the time they understood what he had done, it would already be too late. Liam finally picked up the phone after 3 days of relentless calls. He didn't need to hear Lydia's voice to know she was unraveling. Still, he let her speak first. "What the hell did you do, Liam?" she hissed, her voice laced with barely contained fury. "The accounts are empty, my car is gone, and I'm taking care of my desires," he interrupted smoothly, swirling the ice in his glass. "Just like you asked me to." Silence. For the first time, she was at a loss for words. The next day, she attempted to take legal action, convinced she could manipulate the system. But Liam had planned too well. His lawyer presented everything, the signed agreement proving she had willingly relinquished financial support, the undeniable proof of her affair, and the receipts showing he had spent every dime legally. The judge, while clearly unimpressed by the situation, had no choice but to rule in Liam's favor. Then, Lydia played her last card, child support for Jasmine, but Liam's lawyer shut it down instantly. "Your Honor, my client never legally adopted Jasmine. He is not responsible for her in any capacity." The judge barely hesitated before dismissing the request. Lydia's face crumpled, her desperation on full display. Liam didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply stood up and walked out of the courtroom. The war was over, and he had won. Lydia had made her choice, and now, she had to live with it. Lydia and Jasmine had nowhere to go. With their accounts drained, their cars sold, and the house no longer theirs, reality hit them like a crushing wave. They turned to the only person left, Jacob, the man Lydia had abandoned everything for, the man she thought would provide her with the passion and security she craved. But life has a cruel sense of irony. Jacob, who once whispered sweet promises in the dark, quickly revealed his true nature. The same violent tendencies that had driven Lydia away before returned with a vengeance. The moment she stepped back into his life, she wasn't his lover, she was his possession. The first week back, he treated her like a prize. By the second, the bruises had started again. By the third, she realized she had made the worst mistake of her life. Jasmine, once smug and untouchable, found herself trapped in the consequences of her mother's choices. No more luxury, no more easy life. She was just another girl walking to school, waiting for the bus, watching as her so-called perfect world crumbled. Lydia tried to call Liam, plead, beg, negotiate, but he never answered. She sent emails, texts, voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. But she wasn't part of his world anymore. Liam had moved on. The man she had dismissed as a fool had been the one holding all the power. And by the time she realized it, she was already drowning in her own regrets. Liam sat on the balcony of his new home, overlooking the ocean as the sun dipped below the horizon. A soft breeze carried the scent of salt and freedom, something he hadn't truly felt in years. His phone buzzed one last time, Lydia's name flashing on the screen. He let it ring, knowing exactly what she wanted. Desperation, a second chance, a way out of the mess she had created. Instead of answering, he opened the email from his lawyer. The divorce was finalized. No alimony, no obligations, nothing tying him to his past. He exhaled, letting go of everything, his failed marriage, his misplaced love, the betrayal. Lydia had made her bed, and now she was forced to lie in it. Jasmine, once so eager to cast him aside, would have to face the reality of her mother's choices. Liam had no reason to look back. With a satisfied smirk, he powered off his phone, took a sip of his drink, and finally, felt at peace. Betrayal isn't just about broken trust, it's about misplaced faith. Liam's story is a reminder that in life, loyalty should never be one-sided. If someone shows you through their actions that they don't value you, believe them the first time. Protect your finances, protect your dignity, and most importantly, protect your peace. Never let anyone make you feel like you have to beg for respect. In today's world, self-worth is your greatest asset. Invest in it wisely. And when someone chooses to walk away, let them, because sometimes, the best revenge is not revenge at all, it's moving on, thriving, and never looking back.